So I'd say maybe, the learning process is that actually it's not going to, if you think that anyone's going to just do it just like that, I think you're mistaken. I think it is a journey, but make sure you've got that iterative in place. And also, as a brand owner, make sure you're aware you do need to invest in your digital assets.
On today's episode of E-Commentary, we're in for a real treat. We have somebody that I've personally worked with. I've been involved with 2 of Imran Hassan's childrenswear brands. And in the episode, we're going to dig into his learnings of growing 2 sustainable fashion brands. Imran, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure to spend time with you, Andy.
Likewise, I'm really looking forward to this one because I think that our relationship evolved over the years from starting to work with you and not knowing how to take your jokes initially to actually getting your humor and realizing, you know what, thinking beyond you as somebody that we work for and more as a friend in this world where we actually spar a lot on different business ideas, different thoughts and what we're finding. So looking forward to this one.
Oh, no, same here. And I think, it's important, because we did have a journey, for me, whenever I work with people, you've got to get on with them. Life's too short to be miserable in your day job.
100%. And I think it's always fun when you enjoy working together, and it makes all of the communications a lot easier where you have that relationship where you can just be comfortable and open in terms of what's going on when something's working, when something didn't work, and then it allows the business to benefit as the result of that was something that I really enjoyed when we worked together.
The key thing for me when I have this business is the culture. So what I say to all my guys, we had just had a new person start today and we had an hour induction, and everyone's going to be making mistakes. And nobody gets things 100% right. And you try to foster an environment, in my mind, where people have the ability to challenge each other, but not get defensive. So part of the humour is to keep everyone relaxed. And so when we're not having a great, ROAS meeting, and I'm saying, Andy, you don't go defensive. You're actually there to help, right? How do I get it? Rather than just challenging you. So, well, look, these aren't this, or, he didn't give it to that. We're in it together. And that's, to be fair to you, Andy, you took that very much on board, and you and your team became very much part of the Lilly Sid family, and we'd ask you for wider things. Could you help us? Why are we not doing this? Because you were also, and I know this, you were also vested in our business, not just as for us, not just as a client. We definitely felt that. So I do thank you for those years we had.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, and again, I think that yourself and I will stay in touch for a long time. But let's get into the very beginning of Lilly and Sid and Turtledove. Most people have enough on the plate starting just one brand, but yourself and your very, very talented wife, Emma, decided to start 2. Like, what were you thinking and why did you decide to go that route?
I think, we take a step back. Emma and I were both working jobs. And for us, we were flying out, seeing our kids, picking them up from nurseries, coming home, cooking meals as fast as we could, bathing them. And we got into the hamster wheel of life. And we wanted something different. And I said, what could we do? And Emma's background was in retail designing, etc. And she said, look, I know there's a gap in the kidswear market for this type of stuff, organic, sustainable, fun brands about 13 years ago. And we knew it was going to be difficult. There's no two ways about it. We sacrificed a lot. There's no point in pretending. But what we knew was that if we got it right, we could have the life that we wanted. So anybody that thinks that they're going to, it's easy to do, no. But is it worth doing? Absolutely. So I'd come home from work, and I'll give you the funniest story, and I still love is, I remember John Lewis, when they placed their order, I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, hide a van, deliver the stock to John Lewis warehouse, come back and start my job, which is a high, a pressure job, at 7 o'clock, work till 5, come back, collect the kids, then just concentrate on the work, and then also try to be a dad and a husband. And likewise with them, and 3 young kids. So it was crazy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and I think from my experience of seeing you and Emma together, it's almost like the perfect match if you were going to build an e-commerce or a D2C business. You've got Emma, who is the creative genius. She is so talented at spotting trends, coming up with branding ideas, designing products, buying. And then you've got yourself, who is more sales, marketing, and finance. It's such a good pairing. Why do you think you two work so well together in a family-run business?
So we have the same goals on a foundation level. We know what we want, and we're doing it for, in essence, the family. Above the foundation level, we couldn't be more different, I don't think. I'm your star trying to hug the limelight. If I walk into the room, it'll be, 3 jokes. Emma's just like shaking her head, just, wanting a bit more of a quiet. She's visiting art galleries, and I'm on the football terrace. So I think we are on the top side of it very different. So we complement each other, but fundamentally we have the same outlook on life. We're on the environment, on families, on people. So that's why we work so well. And she is an amazing creative, and we trust each other. That's the other thing. She doesn't really second guess what I'm doing. And that's the other thing, is you have to have that trust, because you can't, when you're so tight of time, you can't be looking over each other's shoulders. You just have to sort of get on with it and make it happen. And that's, you've got to be fast. If she wants to make changes, she'll have a range that she thought, actually, no, let me just change that. And a prime example was, I remember when we launched the Lilly Sid boys range, and we had focus groups. She designed a whole range around boys. We just launched, and the boys turned around and said, these boys said, hate it. We're like, oh my goodness. Why do you hate it? And it was a case of the animals, knowing the animals on their kill. And the boys wanted, animals that are sharks, dinosaurs, and she had to literally in a week turn it around. So if you had the whole chain of, me getting involved with her area and vice versa, you just couldn't do it.
I would love to see what you would come up with if you were left to design a product, Imran, some clothing. I think it would be...
Well, I have got a funny story on this, and I'll share this with you. So I often joke that Emma, all she does is colouring in. I think even for Christmas, I bought her a pack of crayons just to highlight the what I think of her area of business. So I did say, look, quite early on in the Lilly Sid journey, I said, I reckon I could design a range. And this is no word of lie. She goes, go on then. So I designed just a small capsule range, and it was just bodysuits and sleep suits, and we'd won a lot of awards by then. So literally, pretty much, we were getting a good following, and I launched. And I didn't say it was designed by Imran. We were just in the range. We didn't sell one piece, and literally, it was like a year or two. Not even the outlets would buy it. I think we probably still have them. And that's no word of a lie. I didn't sell one single piece. So now I value what Emma brings to the table.
Does she remind you of this, or is there just a satisfaction that
she just knows? She doesn't need. She's not like me that needs to rub people's noses. She just has that quiet authority.
Saving it for a rainy day. So, tell me a little bit about the journey. You mentioned that you were both working jobs, you were raising a family. At what point did you start to decide to go into the business full time together, or was it a transition, one person going first? Like, what did that journey look like?
It was, so Emma had paternity leave, so that made her transition easier. And there were her employed George, Asda, were amazing. They were amazing with her, giving I think a year off and then extending it, etc. And they've been very supportive, and So that part was easy. I think for me, because there's a safety net, I think any entrepreneur, especially when you've got young kids, and you've got a good job, stable job, and I love that job. Had an amazing boss and people around me, and it was really nervous to actually give it up. I think there's two things. One was we started employing people, and I realised that actually their livelihoods is dependent on me now. And so I couldn't take Lilly and Sid as a hobby. I had to commit to that like they're committing to me. I think that was probably the serious one. It was Christmas at the warehouse, and I just remember thinking, wow, these, it's becoming a serious business. So there was a kind of a sense of responsibility. And then my accountant, because I used to say, I was ready to give up, and I'd always be thinking, no. And he just said, Imran, what more signs do you need that you've got a proper business? You're stocked in Selfridges, John Lewis. You've won these awards. You named like the best top 3. I think Draper's named as the top 3 best-selling brands. What more do you need? So I thought he's right, and I did. I took that leap of faith, and never looked back. But it's scary.
And I think for anybody leaving a job to pursue their own businesses, it's safe having a salary for one person. When you lose your own salary to go into the business, that's one thing. But when you have your family's income tied up in a business, I can only imagine that's a big step. But like you said, when
you've got to have, and I think the other thing is you have to be, and advise if people are watching this, you have to have safety nets, in terms of, so for example, at the age I did it, I had amassed, a lot of skill sets, certification. So I knew, worst case, 2 years, if it didn't work out, I could go back in. So you need to make sure you have an exit plan as well if it doesn't work out. It's not very few entrepreneurs have that Russian roulette appeal. I know you're a great reader like myself, Andy. We love books. And I would say to people, one of the advice is just read, we should actually have to do this, maybe top 10, 15 books that you should read, because they give you so much advice on like entrepreneurs, the drop boxes of this world and things like this that you never think of. And they say like people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, none of them actually just went, I'm going to just do it full time. They actually had jobs and created a side hustle that then became their main thing. So that was, for me, it was a key one, especially with young kids.
And the journey through the business, because you guys have 2 super successful children's wear brands. I think that the designs are incredible, but there's this process of building the brands. And when you work on a singular brand, you have that brand's journey. But when you're working on 2 brands' journey, I imagine that brands grow at different speeds and different paces. Like, how did that look like within your business? And how did you decide, not to just put all your eggs into one basket, but actually keep the 2 going? Like, what influenced that decision?
So you're right. I think they are 2 very separate brands. As you know, one brand was more focused on stores, physical. One brand was more focused on online. And now what we're doing is actually, naturally, it's kind of rebalancing. So Lilly and Sid was definitely more the store route. Retailers were there, whereas Turtledove, as you know, just went crazy online, where we couldn't supply the stock. It was as simple as that. We had the ROAS and all that type of stuff to actually just go at it. Amazing. And you'd be, Imran, we've got no stock. Imran, we need to re-merchandise. Imran, I'd be like, oh my God, Sarah, what are we going to do? Andy's on the, so nice problems to have. Nice problems to have. So sometimes, you can't really plan for things, and it just happened. That's the way it was. When we launched Turtledove, we knew we just wanted to be online only. And it was kind of because it was more of a niche product, but we just didn't realise how quickly it would grow. Lilly Sid is now increasing and becoming more online as well as retailers, and Turtledove is now, I don't know whether there's more demand from retailers to have a gender neutral brand out there. So it wasn't necessarily planned to that level. We just knew the general direction. It just kind of worked out.
I guess you learned skills that are transferable. So when you're speaking to retailers about Lilly and Sid, you kind of learn the art of negotiating with retailers, which is a skill. And then on the other side, with Turtledove, you really had to focus on getting your organic social media and your paid social media right. And then
that is, do you know what? D2C is harder than traditional wholesale. And the reason being is when you do wholesale, you design the clothing, people buy the stock in advance, you make the stock to their order, you deliver the stock, you chase for payment, you get the payment, you move on to the next season. Simple as that, really. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the matter. With D2C, you're designing the stock, you're not getting any forward orders, so you are the customer as well as the designer. You get the stock, you then got to trade it yourself. You've got to get, and you know what it's like with the online, it's the customer journey, SEO. There's it's the paid ads, whether it's Google ads, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, customer retention, average order value, then getting rid of stock. So the actual learning curve on Turtledove was steep, very steep.
Yeah, and I think from our experience working together where we've helped you with the paid media, it's also unpredictable. I remember the day really, really well where you guys launched a new collection and we launched the ads. And I had to almost double check the ads platform that the results were actually what I was seeing, because I couldn't believe how well that collection hit and how fast the brand's growth was off the back of that, that collection hitting. It was almost surreal.
So the biggest learning thing, and this is probably a D2C thing rather than, if you get everything aligned, it works. So the email marketing, we're about to launch. Working with your sales, saying, right, these are all the collections, this is what looks, let's get all the ads done in advance. Stock actually arriving when it does. And so if you get all of that aligned and planned, actually that's what we see, it works. What happens is, stock's got stuck in the port of wherever, we're going to be 3 weeks late. The supply chain hasn't happened, or the photo shoot didn't happen on time. Okay, so who's communicated to Andy so that's why it was very important that I thought, once you guys are integrated to team, you were part of the flow. Okay, Imran, I've heard that goods aren't going to arrive, we'll delay it. So, but and that's probably the biggest thing. If you get every part of it lined up, you've got it. And we're seeing that constantly now. If we get everything lined up on the day like we say we're going to do, it flies out.
Yeah, it's when things are late and the trading calendar gets pushed back because of things are being late, then the pressures start to be applied because you're sitting on more stock in comparison to how much time is left in a season. And we see this across board. And we've been through probably some of the toughest periods with problems with the Suez Canal, problems with COVID, where shipments are getting delayed.
Yeah.
Fashion brands have been hammered by this, especially when your products are seasonal. You're up against it. You're trying to think, okay, how do we claw back 3 weeks of trading? Because we need to get rid of this stock because autumn winter's coming. And it's such a challenge. But when everything is lined up, there's a strategic plan. Performance comes because you can afford to be very strategic with your media buying, with your email campaign strategy. And the plan is the plan that makes sense, not the plan that's almost like a reactive response to shipments being delayed.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things there. So anyone who's listening to this, and I would give Andy a hard time to a certain extent. We haven't got this, we've got this, and I'd be thinking, it's bullshit. It's blah 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 excuses. But on the flip side, because when I analyse, because I'm quite an objective person, when I analyse what does work, when it worked, it was that we had everything lined up. when it doesn't work, and then you're right, then we panic because, right, okay, we've got stock, right, let's just try and get rid of some of the stock to catch this back up. And so you're chasing your tail. I think one of the things retailer is changing is this seasonality, so what we're now doing is moving towards, it's more about prints, because with the weather now, we're having like 50 degrees or 40 degrees in July, August, which is crazy. We're in, April the 14th. It looks like October out there. And, we're trying to move away. Our brand's always been, we're trying to move away from actually wearing it this season. All our collections you can wear back with the following seasons. So, in essence, if we can move towards more of a print-based, collection-based brand and forget seasons, because I think the seasons are not here really anymore. And then that puts less pressure on, and then also it's good for everyone. And it's a case of, okay, we're launching this collection. It doesn't necessarily have to be high summer, mid-winter. So I think those things will change over time.
And do you think that's what's allowed you to be so successful? Is that I think with Turtledove, you always describe things as timeless organic classics, and that's the quality of the product, is that you don't have that decaying stock rate that, a seasonal children's wear brand would necessarily face, because the products, you can buy them now or you can buy them for 6 months, 12 months time, and they're still going to be perfect. There's not like a huge influence of like in season kind of flavor of the month. It's more flavor of the last 20 years. The designs are just
absolutely, and that's what we've tried to do is create things that last. Our baby blankets, if they haven't lasted, and by the way, don't quote me on this, if they haven't lasted for 3 lots of children, I'd return them. And I don't want any returns after 4 years. But my point is, we get emails from, this is, handed over to 3 children, and we'd expect that. So our clothes are there to be handed down. And the Turtledove is designed in such a way that this season's colours, and I'm just saying moving away from seasons, but the collection's colours then fit back to the previous collections. So you're just adding to the staple wardrobe. Our dungarees we're about to launch aren't going from 1 to 2; they're going from 2 to 4. So it's a kind of a grow with me brand. Ultimately, we need to buy better, less but better.
Yeah, and that's one thing as well, is that you've had sustainability, and the brand ethos is very much about the future of the planet. And I think that some of Emma's language around her ideas behind the brand and what the brand should be, I just think there's some beautiful descriptions of what we should be doing in terms of how she describes the collection and creating products for a better planet. We need clothes, but we should have the right clothes that last, that can be passed down. And I know that you've done a lot with the pre-loved stuff within Turtledove. How important was it to you as a parent, as a father, to actually create products that are going to allow your kids to live in a better world?
I think they've got the biggest challenge is going to be the next 40, 50 years. That is the reality. When I was growing up, at school, it'd be, global warming, it'd be so far away. But the reality is, we're in it. You look out there, you're seeing it. We've got inflation. We've got all of these fires going on around. I was just speaking to a friend, Vincent, who you remember, who we used to work with in Seville. His summers are 50 degrees. We're getting where the harvest and crops, the yields, etc., we get less and less because of the heat. And the United Nations said, I think we're at the point of no return, or it's too late now. So I think, whilst you can do your bit and we'll do our bits, all of us got to, you've got a young child, second one. I don't know what this planet's going to be like in 30, 40 years' time. And I know I've contributed with, with my love of, say, fast fashion or diesel cars or holidays I know of my meat eating, and I'm not saying no to all of those. By the way, I'm not a preacher here because I'm the biggest hypocrite out of everybody. But genuinely, when I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it, I see the news, I do worry about them. So I think we've now got a real responsibility. Mine's probably made more from guilt. But what I am pleased to see is the generation of my children. This is inbred in them. You see how much they've progressed. And I look at society, how much it's progressed. I think, well, I know they're thinking the correct way, but is it too late? I don't know. So there is a fundamental what we're doing. It is influenced by what our kids are going to inherit.
One thing that I've really noticed is that you don't just talk the talk on this. I think that there's a lot of people online that are very, very loud about these issues, but actually, in terms of your actions and what you're doing with your brands, I think the recent animation series that you've done for Lilly Sid, where it's teaching children about the planet, is absolutely beautiful. I'll put a link in the show notes to.
Oh, thank you.
To the content so people can check it out. But also, I'm not sure if you're going to be best pleased with me for whether it's ready for release, but you're also behind the scenes. You're working on, some really good philanthropic projects to help the world, which I think needs saying. When you hear someone make a point about planning for the future, you're not someone who just talks. You're actually someone who does. And I think everyone, we need to commend you for that as well.
No, thank you, Andy. And, the project is near, I think, about 1 month away from launching, and it could be potentially huge. There's no two ways about it. It's we're getting all corny because, I want to keep this light-hearted. I'm a light-hearted person. But this is about individuals helping other individuals. So in a month's time, I'd love to come back on and just have a different one, not a Lilly Sid, on the power of one, that's what it's called, and how we're using it's a digital platform. So again, I'll probably be tapping you up for some paid ads help.
No problem, you got it.
Yeah. So no, but no, thank you. No one's going to be perfect. It starts just with a step. As long as you can make a little bit of a difference, that you are better than you were last year, then happy days. Because you can come around my house and you can see that I've probably got 200 plastic bags. So it's just one of those things. But we try to do the right thing. I'm pleased with how the next generation are. The kids there, the young adults. So I'm not going to get young adults. They're amazing, and there is optimism. But we just got to do our bit to not get complacent.
And speaking of challenges and mistakes and not being perfect, going back to the Lilly Sid Turtledove journey, what have been some of the biggest challenges within building the companies? What are some of the moments where you think, whoa, that was tough?
It's been tough. There's no two ways about it. If there was one advice I'd give, it's have grit. And I'll give you the story of how we got into Selfridges. I phoned up the buyer. I think I must have phoned and written to her, I would say 20 times. On probably 2 occasions I got through, and she was very polite. But I'm one of many people that phoned her. So I think on the 20th one, I thought, there's no way. So I got the clothes and the clothing rails, and I got a train to London, and I parked outside of Selfridges with my rail at 9 o'clock in the morning, just to show the shop assistants, this is my collection. The shop assistants loved it. I said, please do me a favour. Please, would you let the buyer know that I've come this way, met you outside, showed you it, and give her honest feedback. The buyer phoned me up at 9 o'clock in the morning and said, you're in. So the hardest thing was getting people to take the brand. But I always say to my kids, look, if there was £1 million riding on anything I asked you to do, how would you do it differently? So I think getting the initial sale, but have that grit. I think growth is very painful. So growth in managing cash flow is the hardest thing, because nobody actually wants, it's not a fun job to do. You've got the creatives over there who are designing new ranges, who are looking at websites. That's beautiful. But when you're in the growth phase, you're buying stock in, you've got bills going out, your payment cycle, you've got to pay the suppliers, but your payment cycle is maybe 60 days or 90 days. So even though your P&L may look amazing, right, your cash flow is the one that actually kills you. And so that's probably one of the things I would say is make sure that somebody knows the numbers inside out, know when the cash is going to go out, and it happens at the growth phase. When you're going, funny enough, when you're actually losing sales, that's when you have the most cash. So that's probably the biggest challenge, because we were doubling, tripling every year the sales. And so you're having to buy that stock. So all your money is, come in, it will just go out. So that's probably the hardest challenge.
So to sum it up, it's to financial management, cash flow management, and grit. I've got a really good story about grit, because the other evening we had a cancellation. So I was due to play paddle tennis 7:30 in the morning, and 8 o'clock in the evening we had a cancellation. So we were down to 3 people, and we were playing at 7:30. So Christina, my partner, she was looking at me. She said, "What's wrong? What's going on in the business? You look so worried. You look frantic." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I need to fix something." So I've literally loaded up LinkedIn. I've loaded up WhatsApp, Messenger, sent messages out to so many people. "Hey, we need an extra person. Can you play at 7:30 tomorrow?" and finally someone comes back and says, "Yep, we can play." And then I can breathe. And she said to me, "Was that paddle tennis you were arranging?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "If you took that grit into business development every single day," she said, "I would be able not to go to work tomorrow. You'd still be working because you're addicted to it, but we would be multi-millionaires." And she's right. If you take that drive into your day-to-day and that grit.
Absolutely. It's as I say to people, is if I gave you £1 million, how would you have done it differently? So when people go to, we can't do this, I say, I'll give you £1 million. I'm sure it'd be fixed literally within 20 minutes. I've got a funny story, which is Lilly Sid was. So we were doing photo shoots, and photo shoots, for brands is super, super important. Andy, this visually, you need it for your brochures, you need it for your website, you need it for your ads. So a lot of planning goes into this. So on this day, for whatever reason, you plan it meticulously, and Emma, she's got the props, she's done all the, she's the organised, creative one. So we get to the studio. The previous evening, a couple of kids pull out in the morning, and literally not one kid's turned up. So we're there, hire the studios, hire the photographers, hire the stylist, and it's never happened since or after. But and Emma's like, "What are we going to do?" Literally, and we were cutting it fine because you have brochures, there's timelines. I said, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." Right? It's Sunday as well. All right. I said, "Look, just leave it with me. We'll sort this out." So I get in the car. I'm like, "Oh, bloody hellfire!" And I drive to Toys R Us, and I'll just wait in the car park. Right? Toys R Us opens at 10 o'clock. And as soon as it's 10 o'clock, the kids start coming there with their parents. And I literally start approaching parents and I don't suppose you'd be interested in having your kids photoed. And that is how we got over. I mean, so with the photo shoot we had with just random kids. So it was kiddie care and Toys R Us, and just thinking, where do kids hang out at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning? So we had the babies and stuff like this. So yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, Andy.
Absolutely. That's such a good story. And you didn't end up in the back of a police van either. That's
so close.
Emma
was horrified, because I knew if I said to her beforehand what my plan was, she would never let me go. But I thought we just need to jump over the hurdle in front of us.
But it's so funny to reminisce on those things, like where you guys are now, being able to look back and just think, wow, those were some key moments, that enabled us to get the lookbook out, that got us the orders. That's an important moment within the business. And you'd worked with agencies before. There'll be quite a lot of brands listening today that are on the start of their journey, and they're at that phase where they're just starting to, they've run paid ads for a while, but now they're ready for an agency to take the work off their plate. And I know from our initial conversations when we first started working together, you've had good experiences with agencies and bad experiences working with agencies. What are some of the key lessons, and what advice would you give to brands when they're looking to start working with an agency?
So I'll be very honest with you, Andy. You were the first agency that was good, and we've been in the market. We've been working with different agencies for 3 or 4 years. If I'm honest with you, I wish I could say, there's a formula here. I think culturally you have to align, the size of the business as well. I think, for if I take a step back, the reason why it worked for us was you could see the potential in the growth. So you knew we weren't a £200 company. There was also an exciting journey and story for you. So we were aligned in that sense. Personality-wise, culturally, we were aligned, so that helped. We weren't both corporate. We wanted, the flexibility for you to influence us and us to say to you. So that was aligned. So I think those are the key. But when I went to other agencies, the ultimate, the salespeople. So I think your thing has to be very quickly. You need to have the balls to fire quickly. Yeah. So sometimes I stayed with agencies too long. They shouldn't have. But then again, if that was the case, I may not have found you guys at the time when I did. So philosophically, but ultimately, you just need to make sure that, because if you're a small fish and you're going to a big agency, they don't really care. You need to have the right fit that they're interested in you, but you're not going to be their number one, but you're not going to be their last one. But the potential to grow, and you've got good people working for you. So also, it's not as if that I have Andy, that it's just me and you, Andy, on the thing. It's the people, the culture of your company is the people that you hire are reflective of the ethos of your business. Whereas sometimes I felt like digital marketing was like the estate agency it was becoming, or and no disrespect to estate agents, or it was becoming quite a cowboy industry. I haven't just insulted estate agents, and I'm looking to put my house on the market, so I'm slightly worried. Obviously, excluding the Warwickshire area. So is there advice? It is to get the right agency at the right size, but make sure you've got clauses in there that protects both parties. And also from my side, and this is the thing is, you can't be miracle workers. Maybe those other agencies, would say, "Oh, Imran, he came on, it was this," but he wasn't supplying the content that like he is with Andy. But then again, Andy spent the time to say, "We need more videos. We need this. Emma, these are amazing. Can you do more like these ones?" Not, it wasn't the case of, whereas previously we just sent everything we had. They tried to deal with it. So there wasn't that iterative loop. So I'd say maybe, the learning process is that actually it's not going to, if you think that anyone's going to just do it just like that, I think you're mistaken. I think it is a journey, but make sure you've got that iterative in place. And also, as a brand owner, make sure you're aware you do need to invest in your digital assets.
Yeah, I would agree. I think at times I always felt that we were, in terms of our agency and how we do things, we care. That's our big thing, caring. We care about the clients we work with. We make sure we select them properly, and we care about our reputation and doing good work. And that leads us to push for assets. If we need stuff, we don't just say, "These are rubbish, we need more." It's always like, "These have worked really well,
Correct.
But we need more of them." Or, "This product's gone out of stock. Can we get this asset in a similar style?" And it's giving your team and our teams that we work with the strategy they need, but in a way that's manageable, rather than give me 60 new pictures. It's actually, no, these are the things that we need. And I think from my side, why it worked so well with our relationship as well is that the brand had an amazing growth journey while we were working together, but you were always very fair in terms of the milestones that we reach with you as a business and how that helped our business. So by helping you to grow your business, our business grew, because it wasn't the same amount of money when we started day one as when we were working through the relationship. I think that when you're working with an agency, making sure that they're invested in your success is such a crucial factor. And that isn't a retainer flat. It's, if you hit these milestones, this is what you can earn. And there's a carrot, because you've got to keep them hungry for more. And I think that was a really crucial part of the relationship when we started.
But I think the whole ethos of our business is we try to be fair. We're an entrepreneurial business, but try to be fair. There's no point in saying, we're an ethical, sustainable business, but then screw you over. The concept has to go through the whole business. So what we say is, what kind of thing is, if you're choosing you as a partner, let's be fair to him. If he's doing well, or if we're doing well on the back of him, let him share in that. But equally, if we're not, then let's also feel the pain, but make sure we're in it together. If there's brand agencies need to, gone are the days, I think, where you could just get an advert, put it on Facebook, biff, baff, bosh, see you later. It's evolved. I think you were probably ahead of your time, but luckily for you, after the attribution issues and all this is what needed to be done, but you were already there, if that makes sense. So I think digital agencies will have to become like yourself in how they perform, because now it's not just a commodity of give us this, we'll put it onto Facebook, you'll have a 3 or 0.2 return. Are you happy with that? Yes. Is actually we're having to squeeze, with the whole email segmentation and all that type of stuff. We're having to do it as a package. Otherwise, we're just going to have AI running Facebook ads.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you can't have a point of difference as an agency, so if you're not able to speak the commercials like a CFO, if you're not able to put the marketing plan together like a CMO, and you're not able to treat your client's business like a CEO would, then you're going to have problems, because AI will come and take your jobs. But if you can have those values in your company and do those things, it's going to be very difficult to be replaced, because you're giving value beyond, what the others will do. Speaking of the future, I'm really interested about the future direction of both of the brands. And we've had some good years. We've had some years where it's been tough. I think we're just starting that. But I've noticed that you guys have always kept evolving in terms of not just focusing on D2C and saying, yep, we're a D2C brand. You went to B2B, and similarly with Lilly and Sid, you've gone the other way. What's next for the two brands?
Yeah, I think I've got some things I can't say. So we've got some really exciting things that's literally just hopefully about to be signed. But we've just launched in about 800 stores in South Africa, which is amazing. Lilly Sid and Turtledove, with the characters fully shop in shop. So that's exciting. The animations, there's some things going on there, which again, but all these are beside. And yes, so from that point of view, everything is China. And India, we're just about to launch in India as well. So we've got some really exciting growth plans. I think from a product point of view is to take it to the next level, whether it be material, what materials we use, the Grow With Me collection that we're about to launch. So you're cutting down you're doing that 2 to 4, you're doing that 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, so the clothes last a lot longer. That's exciting. And developing the characters in Lilly Sid, and hopefully maybe becoming more also not only just a clothing brand, but a lifestyle educational brand as well.
That's some involvement of the brand.
That's just next month. The month after. That's the plans for this year.
Wow. And I think that's such a nice evolution, because it's going from clothes to actually education and values. And hopefully if the brand can pass on some of yours and Emma's values to one family in the world, they can take the brand, they can take your approach to the world, and they can pass it on to one generation, then I think that's a a really incredible thing. Imran, I know you're a busy man and I won't take up any more of your time, but I really, really appreciate how open you are in terms of the journey, the stories along the way. And for anybody that wants to check out the two brands, it's turtledovelondon.com and lillyandsid.com. They can follow along on all the social media handles as well. But it's been a blast, and I look forward to hearing the next stage of the journey.
No problem, Andrew. No, likewise. And, seriously, I don't think, we wouldn't be in here where we're in now if it wasn't without you and your guys' help. Those 3 years were amazing, whether it be technical or just, advice. So I also thank you. You're part of the reason we're successful today.